Hi everyone, welcome to today's Day in the Life. We've got the lovely Rayan with us. Hi Rayan.
Hi, Rayan.
Thanks for joining us today. So for those of you new to Supermums, just to give you a brief introduction to who we are and what we do, we are training mums and dads and some non-parents as well into the Salesforce ecosystem. So Salesforce is a great product to work with. There's lots of really great opportunities and flexible roles. Even now, the opportunities are growing. And we're seeing lots of our supermums go into some great jobs. And we're going to talk a little bit about Rayan's in a moment. We've got over 400 supermums and dads across the globe. So we run our courses out of a European time zone, out of Pacific US time zone, and we are going to be heading over to the APAC, Australia and New Zealand time zone soon. We've got some great charities who benefit from our supermum interns working on projects with them. Over 100 great volunteers, and perhaps Ryan can talk a little bit about being mentored as well, her experience of that. And we've got lots of great companies involved in what we're doing as well. Indeed, some of our course sponsors, our admin course that we'll be talking about today is sponsored in the UK by St James's Place Management and in the US by Validity. So thanks very much to those guys for making the course even more accessible. There's some other companies here that work with us in different ways, some of whom you might not be familiar with right now if you're not already working with Salesforce, but certainly you'll become familiar with if you enter the great ecosystem of Salesforce. These are called ISV sponsors, and they're partners who work with products on the Salesforce platform. So thanks very much to them too. So we are going to be chatting with Rayan today. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to hear your Supermum story. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about what you're doing now?
Yes, I'm Rayan. I'm actually a delivery consultant at Wipro, formerly known as 4C. And I kind of got to know Supermums through a friend who's in the industry, and she sent me the details, and, you know, just kind of reading through it, it was just like ticking all the boxes. Flexible working, training, you know, from home. It ticked all my boxes. And my youngest, who's 5 now, was starting with nursery in September, and I joined the cohort in October. So it was just perfect.
Really good timing. And I know you've had a great journey and a really successful position that you're enjoying now. So let's dig into how that all happened. So what were you doing when you decided to sign up for Salesforce and specifically Supermums?
So I was actually on a kind of long career break. I had my 2 children. I was previously in hospitality management, and I just realized that I just could not go back to that industry. It's not really family friendly, and it's just not going to work around my home and family life. I did try to apply to kind of admin roles. I thought, you know, it could be more flexible. And every interview I'd go on, I would just realize that I was really lacking like modern skills. They would ask me to do something, and I was just like, oh, I haven't done that in years, or oh, I don't know what that is. And when it was a good interview, I would ask about flexible hours, and they just couldn't offer that. So I would end up having to turn that job down because it wasn't right for my family life. And having 2 children, full-time education, I need to worry about the school run and afternoon clubs and morning clubs, and it was just not something I was going to do. And calculating the cost, I would end up being worse off. So I knew something really had to change, and finding Supermums was honestly like a massive break for me.
And what made, you know, it's quite different, and I know some people are a little bit nervous to kind of take the leap into something quite different, especially something so, you know, technology. What was your thought process, and what were your like emotions during that time?
Having a kind of friend in that industry meant that I was just like picking her brains. I was, you know, she was explaining Salesforce to me, and she was like sending me information. I would go on YouTube and I would write like, what is Salesforce? And I would do my research. And I just loved the whole Salesforce Ohana and the Trailblazer community, and how you learn is like gamified, and it just really attracted me. And you know, I spoke to someone in Supermums, and I think they had a cohort starting in May, And then they also had a cohort starting in October, and I was like, perfect. My son's starting nursery. I can do October. So it was just great timing for me.
Both get back to learning at the same time.
Yeah, I've always kind of been into learning. Like at one point I was doing midwifery, and I ironically fell pregnant with my first, so I couldn't pursue that. So yeah, I've always been into learning. So it was very exciting for me.
I think that's a really big part of not only signing up to the course, but getting into this Salesforce ecosystem in general. You always need to be learning, and you need to be someone who's, you know, prepared to do that, or hopefully really enjoys that process, because
Yeah.
you're still learning now, even though you've done the course and got your certification.
There's so much information out there, and there's so much help, and everyone's so willing to help. And Trailhead is brilliant. You know, I do it on my phone when I'm on the train. You know, sometimes it's just reading material for me before I sleep. So it's great.
So let's talk a little bit about the training itself. So we have the core part of the training with the webinars and the case study, but a big thing that people often sign up to the course for is the work experience, but it can also be a little bit nerve-wracking. A lot of supermums like a little bit nervous about that stage of the project. How did you feel having completed the first half of the course and going towards that work experience element?
I was definitely nervous because, you know, I had, you know, with the homework, it was kind of like project based, and we were able to put our skills into practice and really kind of build out the org and really do configuration. And that was just great experience, just hands-on exposure, and actually doing it for like a real, you know, company, doing it for real. It was just very nerve-wracking, but it was also exciting that I could actually, you know, put my skills into practice. And I kind of took it on as a challenge. So, you know, it was just something like I just pushed myself. I just felt like, you've done this, you've got this, you've passed your cert, you know this, like go and prove yourself right. Like, you know, all of this, go in and do it. And there's always support.
So we should say it was a little bit of an unusual situation for you, because you actually did your work experience with Supermums.
Exactly, which was brilliant for me because I was familiar with you and with other supermums, and it was just great because I could reach out to Vicky and she would like talk me through a process builder. And you know, I even asked her if I could record it just for future reference, and she was like, yes, of course. And it was just like a lot of support. So I didn't feel like I was alone, and I was given, you know, that encouragement to actually go out there and use my skills.
Yeah, we do place people in lots of different smaller organizations, often non-profits, where you're putting those skills into practice. Do you think the things that you learned, I mean, you can talk specifically about a couple of things you did, do you think the things that you learned during work experience were helpful? Have they applied since? Have they been useful to you since?
100%. I remember when I was through to the third stage of interview, they actually sent me a page of requirements of things they wanted me to configure in the dev org. And I thought, I had a look at it and I was like, oh, I've done that. I've done that. I've got a solution for that. I've done that. And it was just great because I went in with actual like knowledge of actual experience. So definitely the work experience is like a deal breaker. It's like great. Honestly, like that's probably one of the main reasons why I thought this is the course for me.
And how do you deal with, because even on work experience and even when you get out into that job, how do you deal with the things that you don't know how to do?
I'm the kind of person who just really loves to like seek out knowledge, and if I don't know something, I would search it. And if I still don't know it and I couldn't find a solution, I'm always going to reach out to my peers. I reach out to the other consultants, and I've built like a really good relationship with them, so I can just send them a little chat. Can, you know, do you have 5 minutes? Can I pick your brains on this solution? And there's so much information out there. So most of the time, someone's already answered it in the community, and you never feel stuck. If you don't have that, you know, support at work at that time, you can always reach out to the community and there's always a solution there.
I think that's a big thing to learn and to get used to in the Salesforce world, is that, yeah, you're not necessarily going to have all of the answers all of the time, but building that network around you is really important, because you can support each other, and, you know, as you grow in confidence, you're going to be able to give back to that and help out other people as well.
Really.
But you are in this great position now. So went from, quite long career break and working in a completely different industry to now, what did you say, consultant role, which is fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about that journey. So you did your training, got your certification under your belt, got your work experience under your belt, great. And then you've got to go out there and get that job. So how did you feel about making that leap and like going for your first interview?
I felt quite confident because I had the support of Hazel, who had really helped me kind of build my CV. She would look over it, she would give me tips. I also attended a webinar hosted by Heather. She really went into detail on how to really present yourself, topics you should cover, and really talk about your journey and the investment you've actually put into yourself. And I used that all on my interviews, and they loved it.
And we should say, for those watching, if you don't know, Hazel is in our Supermums recruitment team, head of Supermums recruitment. And we've actually grown and expanded that team since you were speaking to them. And there's now a number of them who are going to be able to help Supermums who come through the program kind of find work. We have the recruitment team who can source jobs, but that's not actually how you found your role, is it? Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you found out about your role?
Yes, so I was told to really network, get myself out there. I created a LinkedIn profile. I started to reach out to people in the community, reach out to consultants, and just build my network. And I started to apply for jobs through LinkedIn, and that's how I got my interview.
And even though you got your job kind of through LinkedIn and that particular opportunity wasn't with Supermums recruitment, you still had their support, right?
Support and guidance, definitely. I didn't feel like I was nervous when I was on the interview, because I felt like they covered it. We had like a one-to-one session, and they would talk me through kind of like interview questions. And it was all foreign to me because I've never been on a Salesforce interview. My interviews have always been, related to hospitality.
Yeah, so it's a completely different ballgame, it's a completely different set of expectations. And so, what was it like? How many interviews did you have? What was that process?
It was 3 interviews. So the first interview was with the, I think the role was head of talent or something like that. So just like the recruitment team, and I spoke to her, and actually it was for a position that she said I wasn't very suited to, but she said, I really enjoyed our like conversation. I'm going to keep you in mind, and if other roles come up, I will get back to you. And she did. She got back to me when a role arose, and I had my second interview with the manager, the practice manager, and my third interview was with a project manager and a lead consultant. And that was the kind of practical interview. I had to present my solutions. So that was very, very nerve-wracking. And if anyone goes to that third stage, I would say the tip is to record yourself. So I would kind of record myself going through the presentation. I had like bullet points, and it was just very clear and interactive, and that's what they liked, because a lot of my job is client facing. I am on showcases. I am most of the time speaking to a client about why I built this out and how this is going to make their business processes easier. So they really did like that interaction. And probably that's what kind of pushed me to like the top 2.
And you know what? I think that's where we often talk about transferable skills coming to the fore, because you can learn those technological skills. And that's often, often if you're going into a Salesforce role, they appreciate there's going to be an element of continual learning. What is harder to teach is some of those softer skills that probably your hospitality background has taught you, about how to speak to people, how to communicate with anyone.
It really did, honestly. And I always tell people, don't sell yourself short. I know you've had a long career break, but managing a household, managing children, just interacting with people in general, that will probably put you above someone who's got only technical skills.
Yeah.
Someone who can also interact with clients, and you have to be like a hybrid kind of person. You have to have like the tech skills you could learn. You also have to be able to communicate well and collaboration is key. So you need to be able to communicate with other people. So past work experience is honestly key.
Yeah, that came in really, really useful. And I know often, yeah, we really encourage our super mums to value those skills and really sell themselves on the basis of those skills. And I think that is where the recruitment team are quite helpful in helping you understand that as well. Okay, great. So just to kind of wrap up, what would you say to someone who's kind of, if you put yourself back in that position a couple of years ago, so you've made this fantastic change in the space of sort of like 2 years from stay-at-home mum to this brilliant new career that you've got, and that has seen you through a pandemic as well, right? You've managed to keep working, and which wouldn't have been a position that you would have been in before, which is brilliant. What would you say to someone who's thinking about it? What advice would you give?
Honestly, if you're the kind of person who needs flexible working, I would definitely recommend a career in Salesforce, and Supermums is just a great course to really skill you up, and not only with like tech skills. I was introduced to like form assembly. There was guest speakers that came in and spoke about different Salesforce products, and I had this knowledge going into my position.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were talking about a BA, I knew that was a business analyst. When they were talking about an architect, I knew that was a Salesforce architect. So I knew all of these things because I was exposed to them on my course, and I had the cohort, other mums to support me as well. We had a group, and until now we still talk and we share solutions, and I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Our course isn't just preparing you for an exam, it's preparing you for work, and it's quite broad content, and we touch on a lot of things like the third-party apps that we were just talking about, like form assembly, which, yeah, is not necessarily part of the exam, but when you go out into the world of work, you're going to need those things, which is why we cover some of those topics in the course as well. Yeah, so I guess finally, what's next for you? So we always encourage, that admin is just the start of the journey. So, well, what certifications do you have, and is there anything you're working towards at the moment?
Yes, so recently I've changed practices and I have joined the marketing automation practice. So I am in the process of getting my PAR.dot specialist, and then hopefully next will be my PAR.dot consultant. So I've got those two in the pipeline.
I know you're enjoying those different products.
I am. I do love to collaborate and to kind of work on the core cloud. So I've had exposure to Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, MPSB, and now recently communities. So yeah.
Well, best of luck with it all. It sounds like, you've been on such a great journey, and I hope it continues for you. Thanks very much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.